It is still this morning on ITV, bringing us to another talking point where we'll be looking at the state of power generation in Nigeria. You know, for successive governments, so much has been injected into power generation and, of course, supply. But it appears that in as much as they try, the objective is defeated. As we speak, for about between 4 and 6 months now, the country, as far as I'm concerned, has been battling with epileptic power supply. And this has increased the cost of doing business in Nigeria. You know what it is when you are going to get either PMS or AGO. The PMS is not too available. You have to queue. And if you go with a keg, you may not be fortunate, you know, to get the product. And AGO that's moved from 280 to over 700 naira now per liter. So where we are supposed to actually rely on is the power from the grid, and it is hovering between 3,000, 3,500, 3,520, while the projected capacity, which is at 12,000 megawatts, it's nothing to write home about. Well, to do this morning, I have with me public affairs analyst, is a legal practitioner based here in Abuja, John Awakalu. Very good morning and welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, as a way of starting, of course, the discussion with you, is to get your view concerning the epileptic power supply that we have been facing for some time now.
The epileptic power supply Nigeria is experiencing today is the result of years of neglect in infrastructural investment in the power sector. That's the consequence. For many years, there have not been much investment in the power sector in terms of generation, in terms of grid transmission, and also in terms of distribution. So for many years, it has been lip service. Pronouncements are made mentioning humongous amount of money to be invested in the power sector. At the end of the day, it's just on paper. Most times, it's never get done. So when you don't invest continuously in power, the result you have is that over time, the existing infrastructure will be overwhelmed, and then it begins to fall apart. And that's why we are having what we are having today.
Yeah, but if you look at successive government, they tell you how much that has been, allocated to power. In every year's budget, there's an amount of money allocated to power. Those monies, where are they going to?
The truth is that it's only the government that can answer that question effectively. But I know during the time of President Obasanjo, it was said that about $150 billion was to be put into the power sector. And shortly after the government exited, during the period of Yar'Adua, there was a probe on the power sector. And it was rumored that the whole money had been eaten without anything to show for it. But when the then Minister of Finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, testified on that, she said that that amount is the total cost that has not even been spent. That the only money they had put in was about $400 million towards clearing of site and bringing in equipment that most of those equipment, as a result of that probe, were lying at the various ports, wasting. And with that revelation, that probe had to end. that shows that most of the time, all we do is just politics about these things without telling the truth of what is going on.
So it means that, anyway, let's take a very short commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Independent Radio. 89.7 FM.
Talking drums and shakera combination.
89.7 FM. Independent Radio Abuja. Get it locked.
To survive in the boardroom or on the streets, you must have a strategy. And to be a strategist, you must be a chess player. Independent Television introduces Abuja Chess Open Challenge. The 3-day championship will see participants from schools and other spheres of life in Abuja competing against each other in junior and senior categories to become Abuja Grandmasters and win 100,000 naira worth of prizes. To participate, send yes to this number 070-2647-6846 or 090-4781-8019 and get a link to register. This program is supported by PK Springs, number 7 Becker Street, Omapolo Crescent, Wuse Zone 2, 081-6318-3599. Mustafa Mubidio Adebayo, Chief Executive Officer, Zuma Sports Limited, Abuja.
Wake up the champion in your child. Give them energy to go further. Milo Active Go and the natural goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa helps wake up the champion in your child. Milo.
Barka da dawowa gida. ST daɗin kowa tashar Star Times ce da ke nishaɗantar da iyalin masu kallo. Muna ci gaba da haska manyan wasannin kwaikwayon mu guda biyu masu dogon zango. Ku kasance tare da mu. Muna nuna Malama Fazilat da 'ya'yanta kowace rana da karfe 8:15 na dare a ST daɗin kowa.
Zan jira lokacin da ya dace.
Wannan wasa a cikin harshen Hausa na cike da ƙayatarwa. Wata uwa ce ta yi cace da 'ya'yanta kyawawa guda biyu don ta samu kuɗi. Banda sanin asali me ya kai kare cin alli, mu binciko shi tare. Muna nuna magajiya kowace rana da karfe 7:30 na dare a tashar ST daɗin kowa kadai. Wace ce ainihin magajiya? Wace ce za ta gaji ɗimbin arzikin magajiya?
Will you marry me?
Labarin ɗaukar fansa da makirci tsakanin 'yan mata kyawawa guda biyu ba mai ƙarewa ba ne. Tashar Hausa mafi kyau. Menene tunaninku game da wasannin ƙasashen ƙetare da ake sanyawa murya? Ku kasance tare da tashar ST daɗin kowa. Star Times, nishaɗantar da iyalinka.
Yeah, before the break, we're looking at the state of Nigeria's power supply. And of course, you all know that it is not pleasant. It has gone down from what we used to know to something that is just handful now. We know at some point we are celebrating 6,000, 7,000 megawatts. But as of today, it is hovering around 3,500 to 3,520. Yeah. But why should it remain so? Why is it going down, Barrister?
Like I said in my opening, there is a huge deficit in infrastructure, power sector infrastructure. Because of these deficits, the existing infrastructure is overwhelmed, particularly the grid system. The one we have are those that were provided before independence, and the little that was done during the Obasanjo regime, and most of them were poorly done, that under heavy wind it falls. So Nigeria, what Nigeria needs is that a little shift away from the national grid system to localized grid system, whereby you can generate power for a particular population and then supply it within that area. It will make sense. But a situation where you now take power, all generated power to one point, and from there you begin to now distribute, transmit to certain parts of the country. You now begin to prioritize, okay, this area should be more favored than, even though at times they don't generate any. And at the end of the day, some communities from where this power are generated don't get any supply. And it makes the youth of those areas to become restive and begin to sabotage the power plants in those areas. So we have to solve that problem proactively by doing more of off-grid transmission of power to local communities. This shortage is impacting everything. Families are spending more because a little power that is available, the discos that distribute them depend on it to service their workforce, to do everything, so they charge more for it than they ought to have charged.
They supply some valuable people and valuable areas.
Yes, they supply valuable people and valuable areas. And then for those who get it, they now pay more. So you work and use it to pay for electricity. And when you are not paying for electricity, you are buying diesel at a very high cost. And this is driving down business. New businesses cannot open, especially those that depend mainly on power. And the existing ones are not working to full capacity, industries and all that, and it leads to laying off of workers that also compound the unemployment problems in Nigeria, and then impact on security as well, because when the people are not employed, they must find a way to...
Yeah, I know you are a legal practitioner, but to an extent, you know how legal practitioners pride themselves that they are most learned. It means they know everything. Yeah, but see, in that light, can you give us a sense of the number of jobs lost so far, and you know the reduction in standard of living, and of course where this can lead us to if not tackled immediately?
How you know, how you able to determine the number of jobs lost is the inflationary trend. Inflation is when the demand is higher than the supply. Now, why is demand higher than supply? Because production is not keeping up to demand. At 17% inflation rate, very high, tending towards recession, economic recession. Now, what it means is that if you translate it in terms of job loss, you might discover that over 20% of the existing workforce has been laid off by industries, by manufacturing concerns, and other small businesses because of the high cost of running those businesses in terms of providing power for themselves. Diesel is at a ceiling price, very high up. So what we need is a government that will be sincere and determined, and now decentralize power. Take it away from the exclusive list and allow both the state, anybody, let it become business.
You can generate and supply.
You generate and supply any area that you can. There is competition. Once there is competition, the operators will sit up. But because there is no competition, most times they don't give you life for even a month, 2 months. They will still bring bill, and you must pay.
You still have to pay. And even the supply has reduced.
Yes.
It's the same charges they give you. When it was, say, for example, 12 hours in a day, you are getting say, in an area like Papi now, you get 12, for example, you have 12 hours supply. You are giving 1 million naira to pay. And then it has dropped to about 3 hours supply per day. You are still getting the 1 million naira, as bill. It doesn't really make sense.
That is it. It should be pay as you go, as you consume, like in the mobile telephony sector, mobile telecommunication sector.
Yes.
That should be the way it will be. It should be, but it is not, because the discos must ensure that they maintain their facilities. So about 12,000 something power is being generated, but the transmission line cannot carry it. We'll just be able to take about 3,000 something. So almost 8,000 megawatts are being wasted. Now, these 3,000 something megawatts will now be shared among the discos. And those discos, the quantity they now receive is not enough to service all that.
They don't even want more than what they are receiving. This is where the problem is, Barrister. Those that are getting, for example, 500 or 200, they just want to just maintain, because they know that when it comes, they are really going to meet those people in rural communities that don't have prepaid meters to give them estimated billing, and then they just keep generating
revenue.
They have been complaining, but we have not seen a disco aside that of Yola for obvious reason packed up. They are still smiling to the banks. And when the country was about to privatize, Nigerians were happy. There is, how it is with these telecom service providers. If you're not going, yellow, you are going green, you are going red. You can switch to any service provider you want. But people were thinking that the discos would be like that, but it's not so. You cannot switch from AEDC Abuja to BEDC Benin. Yeah, you can't switch to Lagos, Ikeja. Yeah. You just cannot switch to Enugu. You must. So it is even more monopolistic, so to speak. Can we ever get out from this, Barrister?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes of the so-called privatization of the power sector that took place between 2010 and 2014. Now, ideally, what should have happened is get these companies, these discos, they will be all over the country at the same time. And then find ways to make their supplies to their customers, so you can switch from one to the other.
Exactly.
But it is not so. What they succeeded in doing is create monopolies. Monopolies that don't contribute anything, but are just taking in. You have privatized. Every year, You make a budget of some billions of naira to support the power sector, private company, you now give them. That means when you now check critically, you might now find that, yes, these companies exist on paper as a going concern, as a private, maybe public company. But the reality may be that operators of government are the owners of those institutions. And that is why every year they're pushing money into it. And then nothing, no infrastructure, because they are supposed to provide, what do you call it, transformers, every nook and cranny of the country. But I bet you that none of these have bought or provided any transformer. If you want transformer, you pay for it yourself.
You go and buy.
You go and buy.
As
soon as it is installed, it becomes their property.
It becomes their property.
So, who is fooling who? These are things that they are supposed to provide as part of the infrastructure needed for their to be able to render their service effectively to the people, but they don't provide it. It can only be so because the high and mighty in government are the ones directly benefiting from the way things are.
But in order to sustain the existing businesses and to ensure that the rate of unemployment do not nosedive, can you suggest that this available power generated be supplied to industrial areas?
Well, it's a
because if you look at now, if you just go to the high-brow areas of Asokoro, Metama, Wuse and Gariki, they have this power supplied. Most of them are in their various places of work. It is just there in their homes and no one is using them. So why don't you, take it to where it is needed, especially to industrial areas where the businesses needed to survive and also survive the citizens?
It's a difficult recommendation to make. Difficult in the sense that it is the human being that ultimately is the business. You have to also take care of the human being in order to take care of the business. Yes, what I would rather recommend is a proportionate rationing, so that a higher percentage of the available power should be dedicated to industrial concerns, such that they can run 24 hours on power. Then the residential areas could be some hours of supply, maybe 6-8 hours, especially in the evening time from 6 or 5 p.m. when most families are at home until morning when they go out. But the industrial areas should be able to have at least 12 hours of uninterrupted power supply, so that throughout the day they should be able to have power to function, so that the population, the workforce that are there will be retained, and then they were able to produce enough that will cushion the effect of inflation, so that the demand, the supply will begin to meet demand, and then we will achieve equilibrium. And when we do, then price will stabilize and will come down. The reason prices are up there is because of the high cost, and because companies want to make profits. They reduce either their production level or the quality of the product itself. You may have biscuits that used to have about 5 pieces in it for 20 naira, but they will still sell it to you at 20 naira, but it's now 3 pieces.
Because of the increase in cost of production?
Yes. So you already have an inflation. You think you bought it the same price, but on proper analysis, you have paid more because you are losing 2 of the pieces.
Because when you are buying 5 for 20 naira, it means that 1 is for 4 naira.
Yes.
Now you are buying 3 for 20 naira.
naira.
It means 1 is about 6.5 naira.
That's it.
Okay, as a lawyer, why don't you go to court and ensure these things are done the way it ought to be done? Go to court and get a judgment that will mandate distribution companies to give power to industrial hubs and facilities. Go to court, get a judgment that will ensure that money is allocated for, upgrade of power is used and the aim is achieved.
Well, that's a good question. It is doable. But if you recall that services provided by government are somehow put under Chapter 2 of the Constitution, non-justiciable items that you cannot go to court to ask the court, make an order, compel the government to do this, to provide this service. They are aspirations. They are expressed in terms of aspirations. And you keep aspiring as long as you are alive. Now, for the discourse, where they are coming from, we had National Electric Power Authority of Nigeria, NEPA, and the law that established it insulated it from suit, from being sued for whatever they do. And that has been carried over to the existing discourse. So it's difficult to compel them to. But we'll keep, it now means first going to the National Assembly to ensure that appropriate laws are passed that enable citizens to sue the discourse, like power outage that damages your electronics and other stuff at home. You should be able to sue them because they are supposed to give notice. But how can they give? Because most times, on their own part, they are not even responsible for the outage. It's from the grid. There is a disruption somewhere, and they don't even get supply. So it is difficult, but the major solution to it is an overhaul of the electric power.
But can't you also go to court and challenge the process? Of course, of these distribution companies, they're not living up to expectation. Can't we reverse it since the aim is defeated?
The thing is that several efforts has been made. Several efforts has been made, including at political level, to set aside the privatization that occurred in the past, but it's not been possible because of the interest that are involved. Because of the interests that are involved, it's not been possible. Hopefully, as we progress, a government will come that will be able to put its feet down and insist on the right thing being done. Until then, even if you go to court, I'm not sure, the court may give the order, but implementation of that order.
Yeah, but what about the billing system? It's outrageous.
The billing
is somehow criminal because you pay for what you don't consume. Can't we have people like you take these guys to court?
The billing system is a function of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. Now, problem is that they have stated there that billing, estimated billing is outlawed, is illegal, and should not be done, and nobody should pay estimated billing. But that's what the discos do. When you complain to NEC, the regulatory authority, what do? Have they suspended the license of any disco for engaging in estimated billing? No. But they made the rules, so why are they not enforcing it? Because of interest sometimes bigger than them.
So, do you see any solution in sight as we round up the discussion?
Yeah, there is a solution in sight. The solution is this, that government should invest more on electricity power sector investments, now infrastructure. Then government should reduce its dependence on national grid as a means of getting electricity to all parts of the country, and now attempt to localize the grid for specific areas, so that what happens in point A will not affect point B, so that they will be all independent somehow. Again, government should revisit the privatization of the electric power sector regime that now exists, and make it such that it will look the same way as the telecommunication will have, so that anywhere you are in the country you can be able to switch from one distributor to the other. If this one is not giving you the service you want, you will switch to the other. And once that happens, then competition sets in.
Because you want to maintain
yes,
customers.
Then it will engender quality and efficiency in service delivery. But the current situation has created monopoly. They just sit back at home. At the end of the month, money comes in, and you don't have a choice. That is not and shouldn't be the intendment of the privatization. The privatization was intended to give people choice. But when you are now confined to one this thing and you cannot break out of it, it doesn't augur well for economic development and for social cohesion.
Yeah, but if you also look at it, just last one before we go, we keep on injecting money. Do you have an estimate of how much you think this country can invest in power that will, provide the needed supply to either industries and residential areas?
Difficult estimates, but if you insist, I would say, one, you can never say you have achieved 100% power production and supply. It's always work in progress.
Yeah, because
work
the
in
population
progress.
is increasing.
Yes.
More areas
are developing. So,
so more power is required.
So it's always work in progress. But if we can effectively invest up to ₦1 trillion in annually in the power sector, and ensure that it is utilized according to the provisions it was meant to address, then gradually we'll begin to see steady and consistent improvement in power supply.
Thank you so very much, public affairs analyst, a legal practitioner based here in Abuja, John Awa Kalu, for your time with us on the program. Thank you so much. I'm sure that the relevant authorities and stakeholders have taken note of the last line, especially invest ₦1 trillion annually. Something would definitely come out from Nigeria's power sector. Thank you once again for your time with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and viewers, thank you for listening in. There is hope. Nobody should lose hope in the country. we'll surely get there.
We hope to get there very soon. Thank you once again. This is where we wrap up the discussion segment as well as with the program. On behalf of my colleague, I say thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Tomorrow we'll be here 7 a.m. to spice your day. Please keep a date with us. Have a nice day.